I just figured I would do some more React stuff. People love just chatting. People love React. You know, I might as well go for it. Might as well send it, see how I like it, see how people feel about it. Something to keep in mind is, I think all of these except
actually have time to watch Steam today.
The first
Let's go.
JCS and one of the others.
Speaking of longer subs,
are from you
I
guys.
have 3 whole bears. Yippee!
So please go to the Discord and in the React suggestions put some videos you would like for me to watch. Because once again, I did definitely just grabbed probably 4 of these videos specifically from the Discord from you guys. So yes, very cool. We've got the newer JCS video.
According to CBS News, 50-year-old stay-at-home husband David Tronis desperately wanted to appear on reality television. In late April of 2018, he managed to secure himself a spot on the show Zombie House Flipping, where he would be featured renovating.
What the hell is Zombie House Flipping? What the fuck is that? Does somebody... Has anybody heard of that? They take old houses and flip them, but what does that have to do with zombies? It had 7 seasons? That South Park bit's pretty accurate. Damn, jeez.
His newly bought house with his then wife, 39-year-old financial consultant Shanti Cooper. The only problem was that Shanti wasn't nearly as interested in being on TV, so she refused to sign off on the program, which resulted in David beating and then strangling her to death in the early hours of the following morning. He called 911 roughly 12 hours later at 3:51 p.m.
12 hours later? All right, great start. Over being on reality TV or not. What a... Guys, I'm starting to think this guy might be pretty fucked up. I don't know.
Hello? She's not breathing. I'm trying to do CPR. I can't. Okay, listen to me. Can you tell me what your address is?
Police and paramedics soon arrived at the residence where they were met with a hysterical David performing CPR on Shanti in the living room.
Yeah,
His
might have been an
immediate
overreaction.
explanation was that he found her lying unconscious in a partially filled bathtub, bleeding from the nose and mouth. He was then taken to the police station as a witness, where they swapped out his blood-stained clothing for a custody suit. He was also given a water, a blanket, and a box of tissues, then taken to room 6, where he was reassured that someone would be right with him to answer his questions, which wasn't entirely true. He was left in there by himself for 4 hours and 9 minutes before he knocked on the door to use the bathroom.
Very common.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to bother you, Mac.
What's up? Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
It wouldn't take a genius to recognize that David's behavior is already suspicious. Ask yourself if...
They're probably already suspicious. Just due to the fact that you can't just like... Somebody doesn't just get beaten and strangled and not show signs of that happening to them, on top of bodies decay fast, and forensic teams can get a pretty good idea of time of death. We can carbon date things pretty well. And yes, partner is usually the first suspect. I don't know why I said it like that. The partner of somebody is usually the first suspect when it comes to a murder. Sucks, but it's true. It's just the least or the most likely answer when it comes to crime solving. Usually crime is committed by somebody you know what I mean? Like people don't have crimes happen to them by people they don't know very much. They're very specific crimes. you know, obviously robberies and like shop store robberies, stuff like that can be like very random, but
Prime time. Meow.
typically
Stay
there's
safe,
some
everyone,
sort
less
of
than 3.
connection, relationship wise, friendship wise, whatever.
Sneak cock
So,
inspection.
And yeah, getting him to sit there for 4 hours is great. Not in the sense that that's a nice thing to do. I mean, fuck this guy, whatever. But in the sense that it gets him anxious. It gets him like nervous and worried about what exactly is going on or what he should say. Like, it basically gets him in his head, gets him worked up. It's a great tactic to like make the guy sweat. So
if you'd be acting like this in the scenario he's claiming to be in. You find your significant other unresponsive in a bathtub. Then police leave you in a cold room for 4 hours without telling you anything. You might just ask someone, what the hell is going on? Or what the status of your wife is, and you probably wouldn't be all that polite and apologetic for just trying to use the bathroom.
Yeah,
He returns from the bathroom and sits there for another 3 minutes. The detectives will now enter the room to commence the interrogation. The time is 9:08 p.m.
they really waited till he had to piss.
Hello, Sneak. Very excited for my first stream back to be a JCS. Your streams and crime knowledge has sparked my interest, and now I am going to study forensic biology in the fall. Thank you so much, Mr. Snag.
You just want, okay, how about anything else? Anything else?
I'm starving, a cracker or just something,
You and
just
me
with some
both.
salt, right?
Did you eat lunch? I did not eat lunch.
Don't be fooled by the detective's disposition. They're already
Yep.
certain that David has committed either first or second-degree murder,
Yep.
but they don't quite have enough evidence to place him under arrest, which
Very,
is why they need a confession.
yeah.
David, at this moment, is still free to walk out
Very
of that police station.
disarming.
So the detectives will keep the tone sympathetic and non-confrontational
Yeah.
for the time being to keep him on that chair. They'll afford him the false belief they are buying into his act as the grieving husband. But as soon as he gives them his initial version of events, the pressure will rapidly accelerate, in a manner that David is in no way anticipating.
What would you like to?
Yeah, so it's a very I don't know the exact term they use, but it's disarming. It's a very disarming sort of behavior. So like it's basically, I mean, you already said it. I don't know. I mean, I can reiterate it, but yeah, it's essentially building rapport. It's trying to trick him into thinking he's getting away with something. Because essentially, and this is why lawyers tell you to not talk in an interrogation room, because if you're not under arrest, which you have full on the right to ask about, and if you're not, you have the full right to leave until they tell you no or detain you. They might try to pretend like you aren't, but if you try to leave, they either have to let you go because you're not, or they'll detain you because you are, which gives you great information. But it means they don't have enough information to go off of if you're not under arrest, right? So they don't want you asking it, and they don't want you clamming up or leaving, because they want you to be talking, because they need something to go off of. They have enough information to ask questions, to suspect, make assumptions, but they can't make an arrest off an assumption. That's why he's being questioned, not detained, because they don't have full evidence yet. So that's kind of why they're playing into this, like, oh, like, so sorry for your problems here. You know what I mean? Rapport building, disarming, making him feel like he's smart enough to get away with what he's done, etc. But yeah, it's a very like psychological sort of conversation to make the guy feel like he's better at this than he clearly is.
Eat and I'll run down.
Just something.
Not
just
that you need to be
something,
good at
just
it.
Like a saltines or peanut butter crackers.
Anything
or
like
something.
that? Okay,
Yeah.
that's not a problem. We'll be right back.
Here's your water, buddy.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I can take that one.
Yes.
There's DNA.
Okay, open up things. Okay, is that good? Okay, all right. I'm with you. I haven't eaten since this morning. I'm sorry this is taking so long. You are David?
Ooh,
I believe?
let me turn off TTS.
I'm Detective Teresa Sprague, and this is Detective Barb McClelland.
David, that is my
First
name.
of all, on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department, we want to say how sorry we are for your
Disarming.
loss.
So this is the first, out of a total 11, of David's fake cries. Their intensity level will peak about halfway through this video, during some of the more embarrassing performances you're ever likely to witness on the internet. But from that moment on, you'll notice these acts steadily diminish, as the detective makes it more and more abundantly obvious that she knows
11?
he's lying.
David, and also for
My God.
everything that you're going through. I know this is very traumatic for you. Okay.
They start by collecting David's
I
basic
feel like you would be
information.
doing this in the room regardless. 11 times is crazy. That was, how long was that? How long did he pull that? How long did he try that?
Okay. Okay. Everything that you're going through. I know this is very
A minute.
traumatic for you.
Maybe 2.
They start by collecting David's basic information.
Okay. Blonde.
Not even 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes did he cry about his dead wife.
Hazel eyes, maybe.
Take Hazel.
Not that there's an appropriate amount to
Okay.
They're dirty, but
show grief, but
Is there a home phone?
there is.
Okay.
It's, I can't remember the last 4 digits. It's 407.
of your phone?
The next 3 are easy, 704, the opposite. And I never call it.
The next 3 are 704.
It's 407, 704, and then I think it's 2808. It's.
How do you not know your own
2406,
phone
but I
number?
had my phone. I haven't
Home phone?
we've had it since we
My
were at
question
Fire
still
Club.
And when
stands.
did you move to Florida?
In 2013,
Okay.
about 5 months after I met Shanti.
Did you meet her here or there?
Wait, what?
5 months in 2013,
Moved to Florida.
about 5 months after I met Shanti.
Did you meet her here or there?
Met online.
You met online? Okay. Can you tell me what year that was?
It was 2013.
2013 is when you met online?
Yeah.
Okay. And about 5 months later, did you move here and move in?
Why does
with
it sound
her,
like
or
a
just move
chuckle?
here?
So, it was possible, I believe it was the end of September.
So you guys knew each other approximately 5 years this month.
Okay, so it's about 2018. This is some dude who fucking thinks he knows how crying works. Like somebody who's seen like crying on a show and thinks that like that's how people cry no matter what. Like definitely somebody who's like, this is how people get upset.
Never been more in love or so happy.
Okay. If you don't, I know you've probably never been through anything like this in your life, okay? And I'm going to help you get through it. So if you have questions, you want to stop me, please do so, okay?
Great
But I
language.
do need you to understand your rights before we ask you about anything.
Great
like that.
language by the detective. The way that she's coming off very like
You have the right to remain
sympathetic
silent.
is
You understand
very
that?
smart.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Okay. Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Absolutely? Okay. All right. So I need you to we're going to continue kind of down this path about how you all met. I know you met on Match.com and
Match.com.
5
I
months of-
can't judge. Hannah and I technically met via Bumble, but that was like within a close proximity of the downtown of St. Louis we were in. It wasn't like across the states. We were literally not even a couple miles from each other's location in general. And she was the only person that actually talked to me and also swiped. What's the denial left? She swiped left on me and then undid it. So that was pretty cool to hear. I felt really cool about that. She She literally swiped no and then was like, wait. almost missed meeting my literal wife. Isn't that crazy? Hi, there she is. Hi. This
telephone text
suspect met his
we just started
his wife he killed on Match.com. So
They hit it off, moved in together, then went looking for a house to buy in Florida.
we had an offer on a short sale and waited and waited and waited and it fell
yeah,
through.
very comforting. I
And
know.
we closed on the house on Copeland in April.
You don't, Hannah. You don't want to go on the hit reality HGTV show Zombie House Flippers, do you? Apparently, it does not go well if one does and the other doesn't. Not that show. You know that show? You know that show. Because it has 7 seasons. What is it? Is it just they make old houses good again? The last season ended in April? It's still going. So they just take like decrepit houses and fix them? It's so scripted and repetitive and annoying. They just buy houses and fix them and make drama. I mean, that's like pretty much every HGTV show. I mean, so I can't say I'm shocked. I'm just, the name is what really gets me. I'm like, I'm sure there's a bunch of guys that are like, you know, their wives are like, hey, want to watch Zombie House Flipper? And he's like, oh. He thinks it's like gonna be some cool shit. And he's like,
2015.
So you guys own the house free and clear?
oh, it's just house
Is your name only
flipping.
or was it both of yours?
Whatever.
When we bought the house, we were married, and so we put it in a trust, and we just completed the trust paperwork.
He put the house in his and his mother's names while leaving his wife out of it for, quote, planning and financial reasons. He asserts the decision was mutual, but whether Shanti actually knew about this or not is unclear.
Yeah.
And you've been, so once you
That's
moved to
fucked up.
Florida, you've been living together the whole time, just home to home. Just first with the folks, then Briarcliff, and then this residence. But you've been together the whole time. Have you ever broken up?
We had a couple fights, I think when we were living at Briarcliff.
Okay.
We spent a few nights apart.
He says that he just spent a few nights with his mom, then drifts off into a statement about how Shanti was dedicated to work. The detective will now cut him off and steer the line of questioning back to the argument.
But she's
So
a strong
when you
business.
guys would argue when you would go to your mom's, it was just because she was busy all the time, or what would the beef be?
The work had a lot of stress involved,
Oh.
and she would sometimes. We always agreed, later that she was just overworked and tired and.
So she'd get a little snippy or short or yell, scream, what?
Just irritable.
Irritable.
Small irritability. Sometimes it's
Excuse
just that's not really, I don't really do that. It's not really, I just stand there and,
Mumbling
so
Marty, dude.
I would just say, well, we just cool down period, and every time we did it, we came back. I think we only did it twice, but we were stronger.
Okay. And has that happened since you moved where you are now? Because now we've got the added stress of the renovation.
No, we love it. We love the.
This is Keith Ory, the producer of the house flipping show that David wanted to be on.
When you would be interacting with the Torontos related to your work on the house and also the show, who was your primary point of contact?
Oh, Dave was. He would communicate her desires. I would see her, but it was more like Dave's full-time job, almost, I guess I would say.
Did you ever know during your time that you knew Dave to have any other job?
I was aware that he had explained to me that he had worked for a chemical company up north somewhere.
I actually never knew what Dave did for a living. When my husband had asked him, he said he was into sales, but I don't really know what that means.
That's a
David
nothing
never
burger.
worked in sales or at a chemical company. You're now about to see Keith explain that he insisted on having a formal sit-down with Shanti to make sure that she was fully on board.
It was difficult to get them both together, but I explained ultimately that we couldn't go forward if I wasn't able to sit down with them both.
Ultimately, you're able to get this sit-down scheduled. Tell the jury about that meeting.
I arrived at the house to meet Dave and Shanti, and she was, by my estimation, unhappy to be there. And it was in a sort of a tense state. It was obvious that she was unhappy with something, and she was only there as long as she absolutely had to be, and then left.
This all occurred 6 days before Shanti was murdered.
We love what we're doing to the
What? Oh, there's an ad. My bad. I gotta pee. 1 second. Okay, so terrible start. Terrible start to this. This dude's a bum. Lying, murderous bum.
house. We love the vision that we had for the house. It's totally, I mean... all she wanted for us what she wanted so bad. It made me happy, it made her happy. It was a thing that we did together. She wanted to quit her job. When we got the house done, or just kind of, slowly phase out of it. She thought, a couple of times that she would really need to take a break. And definitely slow down, and definitely not add a whole lot more.
I need him to cut the crap because I cannot hear him while he's pretending to be weepy.
I'm sorry, I can't talk about it any faster.
That's fine. And that's very normal. That's very normal. Because you're not going to process this for a long time.
Oh, it's so embarrassing. I can't.
Really bad.
It's so embarrassing.
Notice how quickly he manages to pull himself out of the depths of despair and into casually talking about his house flipping show.
We, Keith also does...
So anyway, about my reality show.
I'm so sorry. I know you're asking simple questions, but Keith does a TV show, a home improvement.
Keith, the guy you mentioned, Ori? Okay.
Called Zombie House Flipping.
Keith asked them to be on the show.
You just move on?
That we would get a lot of what they call trade-outs and promotional sponsorship to do.
Any financial incentive to do that?
Big. That's what they call trade-outs.
I can't talk about her in the past
so their
tense.
sponsors. That's one of the things I was working
So
on.
anyway, Keith asked me to be on his show.
Windows, doors, cabinets, and so maybe instead of getting granite, you get quartz, or maybe instead of getting, middle range cabinets, you get high-end stuff. And we're also working on
This house flipping shit I don't care about.
Amazing open concept stairway in the middle of the house.
He's literally bragging to this woman. He's literally bragging about how he was going to be on TV.
Would they film you all or just the work?
No.
He's literally bragging about the TV show he still thinks he's going to be
Pay
on.
no attention to David's no. He fully understood that he would be featured prominently on the show as the main builder construction guy. The so-called stars he's talking about are the hosts. The detective will now establish a timeline.
So when she comes home Sunday, it's you, Jackson, and Shanti, and you just stay at home and have is it a pool get together?
We only have them every other Sunday. It's our family day, and we do like to have an early meal, watch a movie.
So, do you recall Sunday night about what time everybody goes to sleep since you're all
We
the
go to
same?
bed early on school nights, so 8:30 we're winding down. 9 o'clock lights are low.
Shanti's son gets picked up the next day at around 5 p.m.
5 p.m.-ish, okay. All right, and then do you guys go anywhere, do anything, or you stay at home?
I think we made dinner together that night. And,
So that would have been Monday night. Did you watch TV?
we did
Any idea what?
American Idol.
Okay, so you wake up Tuesday morning and you're in
American
the
Idol.
I usually wait for her to come down. She came down after 7 o'clock, probably.
Yeah, what's this
Almost
cutie
7:30.
patootie ass
Shanti went
pose
back
he's doing?
upstairs, and David started doing chores around the
Brother,
house.
you're a
He's
murder
now about
suspect.
to mention the last time he supposedly saw Shanti alive, and then break into another fake
My
hysteria.
fellow
Yet
Americans,
this
I have
time,
made it
he
to
will
a
get
year
no
with this dumb
reassuring
fuck.
feedback from the detective, and the charade will rapidly dissipate.
Just
Here it
I
comes.
should come down again. That's not what I saw.
She came down again, and what happened?
Came down. I've thought about it. I've tried to think exactly what time it is, but I don't know exactly. I would say probably 9:15.
Just a full
anyway.
sentence.
The reason I know that is she said.
Just
She
a
said she was
full
going to
run-on
the
sentence
dentist,
immediately.
And he said he was going for a walk. He now attempts another fake cry, but gets ignored again.
Did you take the dogs for a walk?
I went for a walk
By yourself?
by myself.
And where'd you go?
Yikes. Don't know walled by a detective.
He comes back home and feeds the dogs.
That's all that I can remember until I went upstairs to see when we were going to pick up Johnson.
Okay, and what happens when you...
Does he think
and when you
crying
go
is like
home?
half a
Is it unusual?
second?
When
Bro,
you
when the
leave
waterworks
Washington?
start, they go.
So,
They go for a hot second.
Maybe
At least
the
when you're
water
me. I don't know about
is
you
running.
guys, but
but it's not running. It's not like the sound of the shower.
I start crying, it goes.
It's trickling out of the spout.
Okay. And
I'm not gonna let
so
out one
you
little
walk toward the
sad,
water?
mopey sound and then lock
What you're
in.
hearing?
Yeah, walking to the bathroom.
Okay.
Just in case you didn't
My ass
catch the
would not be
passive-aggressive
talking
nature
if
of
this
that
was me.
response. Here it is again without
If I
subtitles.
was a victim of this,
So you
I
walk
guess
toward
I'd be
the
like
water?
distraught. Like if this
Did you
was,
hear
if
me?
he was really a victim in this circumstance, like he would not be able to speak
Just
right
look
now.
at David's face. Poor David really doesn't want to be getting grilled like this anymore. Keep in mind it's almost 11 p.m. He likely didn't get a whole lot of sleep the night before, and he's been acting his ass off all throughout the day. He'll at this point be exhausted and want nothing more than to get out of that police station.
And
But
spend
he doesn't
4
want to
hours
challenge the
doing
detective
nothing.
directly and risk losing her approval. Hence he throws out a weak little display of passive aggression to see if she'll pick up on the hint, but it of course gets ignored. She will simply continue pressing with an unsympathetic tone which will cause David to revert back to appeasement. He will then begin recounting the horrific circumstances under which he supposedly found Shanti, and as this unfolds you will see a glaring disparity in David's emotional presentation.
And once again, the fuck? What? And once again, like this, he's doing the exact opposite of what he needs to do. The confrontation is necessary in order to get out of the situation. If in hypothetical standards, if you're an innocent person in this scenario, like you should be challenging the detectives because you should be questioning why you're there or if you're even allowed to leave or not, because then you force the detectives to, then you force the detectives to make the intention clear. When you play this little game of this little political game with them inside of the interrogation room, that does nothing but benefit the police, because once again, when you're interrogated, they benefit from you talking and giving more information. So when you immediately try to challenge their ability to do so, that's in your best interest. Getting a lawyer, asking if you're being arrested, asking if you're going to leave or if you can, or what you're being arrested for, etc. Being able to question them and challenge them on their word is essential to being like taken out of a interrogation better off than you might be otherwise. Because if you just fucking yap, and of course a bunch of criminals do this shit, because tons of people who do this sort of thing think they're going to be a genius mastermind and the first one to get away with it, so they have to make this, they have to set the scene. This is the such a huge downfall of anybody who, you know, tries to get away with a murder, is they try to set the scene. You know what I mean? Not that there's a way you should get away with murder, or that you should at all, but this is almost always the downfall, because one, they're not a genius and they're already the suspect most likely, and two, they try to trick the police. And the most likely scenario is you wouldn't be interrogated by chance. You're either the victim or the suspect, and it's kind of like you're not gonna, the police, they're incentivized to think they got their guy. I mean, and they're wrong, and they've been wrong, and they can be wrong, and they're consistently wrong, and we know this. But to pretend like you're able to convince the police differently is so stupid. I mean, bonehead. Just absolute boneheaded behavior to think that like you can outsmart the police. Not that they're like a genius, but they're determined in their craft and willing to push the boundary to get their collar or the suspect found, which means they will push an innocent person if it means getting the information they need. And they'll make that person feel guilty as shit, even if they're not, because if they're convinced, and they're going to make it feel like it. So you know, you're not going to be able to sit here and manipulate the police. You're not fucking Dexter. That's a show. That's a show. Like, just like that's a show, it's just like how like CSI, it doesn't work like that. There's like 50 plus people on a CSI team. None of them do half of that shit. Basically none of that shit. They basically, like, one person does one specialty and then the next person does the next thing. So this is another him being so warped into TV, I guess, because he's obsessed with getting on the show, that he thinks he can fucking silver tongue the police, like he's some sort of like wordsmith. I don't know, fucking
what happened?
Just stupid. Just stupidity.
I see her laying.
Just peak stupidity, bro. I mean, it's just typical.
In the right hand corner. And it's just extremely awful, and
oh shit.
It doesn't look natural. Obviously she fell or something happened.
But you did shut off the water.
I did shut off the water and it drained, which tells me I could hear it draining when I pulled her out. I could hear. So that, okay, so I guess this is all weird, right? Because she's in there, the water's on, and it's draining. It doesn't make any, it just doesn't make any sense.
Talking very normal about the crime scene his dead wife was at, by the way. Very normal speech.
And she's face down. So
yeah, very normal tone for, oh, the crime scene where my wife's body was? Yeah, let me tell you about it.
And touched her right arm. is rose-colored, so there's blood in the water itself. I can see a spot of blood.
And you pulled her by her arms?
So I grabbed someplace on her arm. Tried to get kind of under it a little bit.
And you said she seemed stiff?
This is all evidence, by the way. Like, all of this is used. Because especially, I mean, even if they don't primarily suspect him yet, this is literally evidence. Because if it comes down to a court case, they will just play all this back and be like, yeah, but you said you did this. Blah, blah, blah. You said you did this, etc., that, etc., this. But all of the forensics says you didn't do any of that. So why did you lie? Because forensics can't lie. I mean, it's very hard to, you can't really fake DNA. It's not really how it works. You can't really fake that. So yeah, it's kind of all of this. And this is once again why you don't talk to them, because all of this is used. All of this is used and useful for the police, not you. You're not going to say something in an interrogation room that your defense attorney is going to be like, thank God you told them that. Thank God you told them that. It doesn't happen. What's useful for you is if the police have little to nothing to go off of and that you don't contribute to your own downfall. I mean, there's just no way around it. It's not. I'm saying the same thing like 5 different ways.
Hard to move.
There's something so incredibly unnerving in the sound of the casual crunching of his snack as he recounts in precise detail the limp and lifeless body of his wife, so we'll spare you the rest of it.
I had to pull her and turn her a couple of times. Then she felt cold. You asked how she felt. She felt cold.
Or was eating a snack while talking about his wife's dead body. That's fucking crazy.
You grabbed the what?
We had, when we did the betting, we took
God forbid I regale the murder scene on an empty stomach,
The
guys.
detective asked David to draw a map for the purpose of illustrating the timeline of his movements.
Evidence.
She will now shift the line of
Evidence.
questioning and begin to gradually
More
intensify
evidence.
the pressure.
When was the last time the two of you argued?
Very briefly on Saturday, right before we left.
The argument was over the renovation. David likely admitted to this because Shanti's son was there for it.
The upstairs floor was very wavy, and the point of contention probably was, do we tear all of that out and put in new structure and trusses so we have a perfectly flat floor and then a perfectly flat ceiling? But I don't think it's an argument if we're both...
Who gives a shit?
Shanti and I are both on the same page, and we're both just in agreement and upset reasonably and justifiably upset that it's taking
Gives
longer.
a fuck.
Shanti and I aren't fighting about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're both upset about the same thing.
Who cares if your floor isn't
Does she
flat?
feel as though you don't listen to her?
No, I don't think so. She knows I listen.
Has any fight ever turned physical between the two of you?
No.
Oh, the ceiling and floor aren't symmetrical.
Has
We
she
really
hurt you?
we gotta break out the whole thing.
Struck you? Threw anything at you?
No.
No. Have you ever harmed her physically?
No.
David continues to pretend that he doesn't notice the accusatory nature of the questioning, so the detective will now intensify the pressure to a significant degree.
She sheds. She seems to shed.
Her injuries to me, David, seem really significant. More significant than from a soft tissue fall. More significant than from me tripping and falling. And
Slowly nods his head in murderer.
She elaborates on the inconsistencies while David just sits there and nods.
The issue I'm having with
So I'm free to
is
go.
I absolutely think that she was deceased before you left to go to the park.
Which is insane, by the way.
She repeats what she said a few more times, while David just keeps doing what he's doing.
Okay, so I think that you've told us a significant
now
amount
he
of
shuts up.
information. You've been very cooperative. But I also think that you've left some stuff out.
Wow.
And I think you've left some stuff out that is maybe something got out of hand, maybe you didn't mean for it to happen, maybe you got upset, maybe, but there's something that happened between the two of you before you left that house. Because she was deceased, or on her way to being deceased, before you left that house. Now, if there's an explanation, I want to hear it.
I told you everything.
Yeah, you told
But
a
you
little
left
fucking
out
too
something,
much, you
David,
dipshit.
because this woman has significant injuries.
First of all, why is the fucking white noise in the background getting louder and louder? Unless I'm just, like, my ears are tricking me. Second of all, once again, does anybody else know how easy it is to bruise? It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. I might still have it. Like here. I don't know if I've had a bruise on I've had a bruise on my like thigh or lower leg since before the subathon or during. I don't really know when it happened. It's just been there, and I think it might have been at some point during the subathon. I don't know. It can just happen. So when you're intentionally assaulting somebody, it's very obvious. Like, it's very obvious because mistakes that equal a bruise are not hard to get and are visible. Deliberate battering of somebody is very noticeable. Unless somebody covers it with, like, people have covered bruises with makeup and stuff, because also, like, if a bruise is an accident, you don't want people going around thinking you're getting the shit beat out of you if you aren't. So it's just not discreet. It's not a very discreet thing to do to somebody. Not that you should be doing anything to somebody, but it leaves behind very physical evidence on top of, depending on the scenario, he or she might have the other's DNA under their nails, which is something that isn't really thought about much. Defensive wounds and things are very oblivious, or not oblivious, obvious. It is very easy to tell when somebody was trying to get somebody to stop, or they were the person that wasn't, like, if an assailant is trying to be stopped, it's obvious to see that they were being, like, at least somebody was attempting to get it to stop, and vice versa. Isn't it also super easy to tell if someone has been asphyxiated? No. Yes and no. Because once again, asphyxia is a very broad term, which just means they stopped breathing, which can happen for a lot of reasons. There are very obvious, there are some ways people can die from asphyxia that, you know, there's very obvious ways people can die from asphyxia and it be shown physically, but there are also ways that that can be obscure. So anyway, so yeah, I guarantee you, I mean, I don't know if they'll mention it or anything, but I guarantee you him or her has DNA. They might both have DNA of each other on their hands somewhere, because I can't imagine she went down without trying to fight back. And I can't imagine doing what he did. He doesn't have a shred of DNA on him of her anywhere at all. I mean, he might have some hair. He might have her blood not on his clothes, somewhere worse. It could be under his fingernails. You don't actually know. Like it can be all over his body. That's the craziest thing about DNA is the law of transfer. Like you leave DNA no matter what. My ass in this chair, I'm leaving fucking fart particles on it right now, and you don't even know. You don't even understand. I'm shitting in this chair, and it's leaving it behind. Just kidding. My fucking your clothes leave behind evidence. Your skin, your hair, your body, your flaky ass head that you have to get medication for because you have psoriasis that you didn't really realize until you moved out of your hometown and the weather changed, and the weather really affects your scalp, so you get a really dry ass scalp. You have to get specific medicine so you shower in it. Stuff like that. Anyway.
Okay, this is not from a fall. Did you harm Shanti in any way?
Absolutely not.
Are they specific? What do you mean?
Her?
Absolutely not.
Did you strangle her?
Without question, no.
Did you beat her?
No.
Did you hit her with anything?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Do you have injuries?
I do not. I do have some scratches from the bromeliads and from the bougainvillea.
Okay.
I do trim them myself.
Aside from the scratches from his plants, David had no injuries that could indicate a struggle. But this might explain why.
You noticed a single earring on the nightstand?
That's crazy.
A single what?
A single diamond earring on the nightstand.
Yes.
And what was the significance of that?
Looks like she removed it before bed and didn't get a chance to remove
the other one.
Because you believe that's when the attack occurred.
On the edge of the bed.
Very likely.
Where the blood was found on the side rail, yes. And I think when she turned to take that earring out, she didn't see it coming.
Would you mind, just for me to be able to say...
Okay, so if there wasn't a struggle, that might be a bit harder to find evidence on him. But
and did not harm his wife.
Once again, I mean, like look at that. I was wrong about there being a struggle, because I didn't understand the circumstance of how she was killed. But despite that, he left behind evidence. Despite that, there is evidence of how it went down, regardless of if he has anything on him. Because once again, fun fact, everything has carbon dating on it. They can, I don't know how, if it's exactly this precise, but they can essentially track where the blood started. Which is essentially what she said. She's saying that they theorize it started by the bedside, not only because of the earring only being one off, one on, still on, but because of the dating of the blood, because they can measure that based off of stuff like the age of it, because blood, once it's exposed to the outside world, begins to change, much like a lot of other things do. So, once again, it's not, you can fake cry, you can fake an alibi, and you can convince the police both ways, etc. But like, you cannot fake DNA. It just doesn't happen. Like, you can't do it. It's really hard to fake forensics, because how do you? You really can. It's really difficult, if not impossible, to do a crime and then make the crime look different without it being like very broad and not granular like DNA is. DNA is very down to like the nitpicky, but that's where crime gets solved, essentially. Like, if somebody like this is stupid enough to be admitting stuff in an interrogation room, That makes the job way easier. But these little specifics that the forensic teams get to, this is really what solves crimes, especially ones that are harder when people get very like clammy and don't cooperate, which, you know, is the move that should be done. Not that you should be committing crime, but when somebody who does commit crime gets very uncooperative and hard for the police to get stuff out of, that's when forensic shines. And either way, it's probably shining both ways here. Like, this guy's an idiot and the forensics is good. But yeah, like, forensics really gets stuff down to a point. You can't, it's really hard to change it, if not impossible. You can't change your DNA. You and I, everybody has a very specific genetic code that, like, saliva, blood, skin, hair, all show the same genetic stuff, the same DNA, etc. Like, you can't get rid of it. You can't fake it. You can't change it. You can't get rid of it. Like, and it will be there. It will be there. It will be there. It really will. Like, you can't, there's nothing to do about it.
Would you mind?
Other than just don't fucking do it in the first place, obviously.
Absolutely.
Hot take.
Would that be a possibility?
Don't be a criminal. Hot take.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
The detective asks David if he wants another water, to which he says, sure. So she brings him a water and tells him they'll be right back with a polygraph machine. But instead of coming right back, they leave him in there for just over 2 hours, during which time they decide not to proceed with the polygraph, but simply ramp up the confrontation.
And you know why? Genius. Genius. You know why this is genius? Credit to this police force, because telling somebody they're going to go on a polygraph, once again, somebody as stupid as this fucking guy, he probably sat there for 2 hours being like, okay, what am I going to lie about? What am I going to say on the polygraph? What lies am I going to make up? And what better way to fucking turn him on his ass than be like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Because it's not even fucking admissible anyway. It doesn't even do anything effective in court or in an interrogation. It just makes that person think stupid or get upset or think they're busted, when in reality, you can't use that in a court at all. It's very smart to get this guy like ticking for 2 hours about like a polygraph and how much he's going to have to like fake it or what he's going to say or how he's going to phrase things. And then it's just thrown out. It's like, oh, fuck. Like, wait, what? Very smart, in my opinion.
Hi. You doing okay?
Yeah, just...
Did you sleep a little?
I did.
I was just sitting here for 2 hours.
I know you've got to be exhausted. Or at least mentally. Yeah.
I just want to point out some things to you that I think are unusual. There's so many, I really don't know where to begin, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that I find that the living arrangement, I find to be completely unusual for you to be primarily living downstairs.
I'm not primarily living downstairs.
Well, sleeping.
What I said is that I sleep down there, but I don't go down there till we're done with dinner. We're done watching TV, or we're done for the evening.
Okay, just hear me out.
Okay.
So you don't go upstairs during the day while she's working. You leave her alone, and then
not entirely. I do go up there.
Okay.
But I don't work up there while she's on the phone because it's distracting. It's her office. I think that I've explained extremely well. She didn't sleep. She did, but you said...
He continues defending the fact that he was exiled to the garage.
I think it's an adjustment and a transition that she didn't feel like she could make right now because she couldn't afford the time that it would take.
But she's sleeping in the only part of the residence that's semi-comfortable. You're sleeping in the garage with the dogs.
how do you explain
No
this
answer.
woman's head being swollen, her eyes being black?
And would never, ever hurt her.
So when you pulled her out
Like
of the
I
tub,
said,
you agreed with
very
me that
obvious.
the water came out of the tub.
More
There's not a
obvious than a
spot of water on the
bruise
floor,
by
David.
accident, and those are obvious.
The carpet isn't wet. The carpet isn't
Very
wet from where
obvious.
she was pulled out of the bathtub sopping wet all the way around to the front of the couch. The carpet's not wet. There's no blood on the carpet.
Notice how little David moves compared to the detective. It doesn't correlate with anything in particular. It's just sort of interesting to watch.
My guess is she wasn't treating you very well.
First of all, love that he said it doesn't correlate. Thank fucking God. Thank God JCS isn't falling down the fucking gestures equal this pipeline that tons of true crime channels do. That shit does not, there's nothing supporting that. So much soapboxing. I already talk about this enough. No body language. Body language does not prove anything. I love that he pointed it out, but he said it didn't really correlate to anything. He just thought it was weird, because it is kind of weird. Ultimately, you're being accused of something pretty dastardly that in this case you did do. And earlier when you're sitting there being talked to like everything's sympathetic, whatever, you're sitting here going like this, you're sitting here like moving around, and the second they begin pointing out real inconsistencies with the crime you committed, frozen, motionless. It is very weird. It doesn't imply anything. There's nothing that can be used against him in that regard. It is a weird thing to notice, though. It's an interesting thing to point out. Body language is interesting, but it's not an admissible problem or thing in court, and it's certainly not an implication of crime or guilt or innocence, etc. It's just interesting, and it can be left at that, and I appreciate JCS being one of the few that's willing to leave it at that.
And there's only so much anyone can take before they snap.
Being sympathetic again.
Appreciate the very kind things that you've said.
I'm missing what you're saying because of your suit that you're moving, but I'm kind of missing it. It's really loud, but I missed what you said because you're talking so loud.
I'm sorry, it's falling out. I appreciate the things that you've said and the genuine consideration and thoughtfulness.
You're being accused of murder, man.
David, you killed this woman.
I cooperated so I could give you all the information and all.
You cooperated because you thought that language would overwhelm us, and you thought you could pull the wool over our eyes.
I don't think there was any
and you can't
to do that.
All of this, all these tangents, all this flowery, fancy language,
answers to questions
all the details.
That you asked.
Look at all the shit coming out that I pointed out. Look at all that.
You fake cried for about 7 or 8 hours today. Not one tear came out of your eyes. Not one. Not one. Not on scene with the officers. Not in this room. You have fake cried over this woman's death since we made contact with you.
That's
for
insane.
Hours. And every single time you fake cried, we wrote it down.
Not a single tear.
Not one. Nope. Okay. We've been extremely patient with you for a very long time.
Couldn't even fake a tear?
Because there is not a lick of remorse for what you did to this woman. Not even a little bit. You're staring at a woman you're telling us you're in love with, and you've done nothing the whole time. But close your eyes, huddle up, and protect your own ass.
Yeah, get him.
So we're just going to prove you're full of shit.
Get him.
Solve this case. And I'm glad you think that's funny.
Damn.
I'm glad you think that's funny.
Okay, beast.
The investigators would exit the room shortly after this moment, at 4:56 a.m. David would then sit there for a little over 2 hours before finally asking to go home. But before being driven back by one of the officers, they asked him if they could take his photograph. He cheerfully obliged. Judging by his expression, he may have thought he had just gotten away with murder, but a grand jury indicted him 4 months later, and he was arrested at his mother's house. When he was told he was facing life imprisonment, and that the evidence against him was overwhelming, he started acting crazy, and went for the insanity defense. He was then sent to a maximum security psych unit, where he spent 5 years before a judge ruled him competent to stand trial. This is what he looked like on the day he was transferred back to jail. His trial began on October 12th and lasted 6 days. He maintained his plea of not guilty, with his official defense being that he was out of the house walking the dogs while an unknown intruder broke in and murdered Shanti.
You heard about the sleeping arrangement.
Okay. Just to reiterate, like, how, this is one of those, like, people don't actually know how this works. The insanity plea. You don't just like leave. You don't just like leave or go to like a cutesy little hospital or get out of jail. You're consistently evaluated until you stand trial. Like, it doesn't just disappear. Like, you don't just not have court. The only way you wouldn't ever have a court day is if you continue to be psychiatrically deemed insane, which is arguably a worse fate to have, especially if you actually deal with it, but even more so if you're trying to get it, like, fake it, which is crazy, by the way. He's spent 5 years faking being insane. And you know what? They might have just let him. They might have just let him do it so they could continue to gather evidence. It's entirely possible. They just told the hospital to just let him go, like, let him be as he is there until they gather so much evidence. It'd be impossible for his attorney to get him out of it. It's not out of the question. It's really not. It's crazy. What a crazy, yeah, like, once again, it's just not how it works. You don't just, like, leave jail if you get the insanity plea. You go to probably a worse place and you get treated worse. And then once you're, like, better, then you go to court and then you go to jail. Or you just stay there and never leave. You don't just, like, it doesn't, like, go away. You just don't go away. It doesn't just disappear.
You heard how the defendant was sleeping in the garage with the dogs while Shanti was staying in the essential, one-bedroom apartment, separate and apart from him. And this had been going on, for over a year. This was an intentional killing. A random stranger that comes into a house isn't going to, take the time that it takes to strangle a person, to move them to a tub. Not take anything? Doesn't make any sense.
Agree. Yeah, it just doesn't. It just doesn't happen. People don't burglarize a house and then go, oh shit, kill a person, strangle them, move the body, leave, take nothing. And I've talked about this before. People who do things like home burglaries, they're not exactly in the killing game. That's not really what the crime they're trying to do. They're trying to take something or get stuff or make money, etc. Like, they're not in this. This is also another really stupid fucking thing that criminals pretend is like a good excuse or a nice alibi. Why did I feel like I just saw a truck with my old golf cart go past my house? Wait a minute. I mean, I'm sure I didn't have the only red golf cart. Check. I mean, I sold it. I already sold it. I sold it to some place that would, I already got rid of it. I just think it's really funny that I got rid of it and somebody in my neighborhood might have bought it. But, not like I had the only red golf cart. It's fine. Whatever. Irrelevant.
Leave no sign behind.
Oh, yeah. Burglars don't really like want to kill people. They want to just like get in the house and get money and leave. And like if somebody were to challenge them, they're just gonna fucking go. Like it once. This is gonna be another shocking thing to hear, but like the fucking shows and movies and shit that you watch, that shit doesn't happen. Burglars aren't in a house and somebody's like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, boo!" I panicked. No, they fucking leave. They just fucking leave. Like, a terrible fucking lie to be like, "Oh, I think some random guy came in and broke into my house and then went upstairs and then strangled my wife, and then in the midst of all this chaos and trying to get out fast, moved the body into the bathtub to try to make it look different than what it was." Why does it fucking matter if it's a random guy? That doesn't change anything for him. It doesn't do anything. Stupid.
No fingerprints, no DNA. That doesn't make any sense. You have the severe beating of Shanti. You have the injuries to both sides of her face. You have the, the fractured skull, the swollen shut eye, the damaged eye on the other side. That you saw the intense bruising and bleeding in both sides of her mouth. This was a beating. So at some point in that beating, the defendant, and you can infer this from the facts, intended to cause the death. And he did it with a premeditated design. We ask that you convict him of first-degree murder.
Big and based.
Thank you.
The defense mainly tries to evoke empathy for the defendant, but it ends up just roasting the face.
Sorry. What a contrast. What a contrast of people. I'm sorry. I'm sure this guy's great. That was fucking crazy. Just to see this big, like, boisterous guy be, like, so determinate, and then we see fucking Bill Nye, the defense attorney.
Fake crazy out of him.
Shanti's the only source of the income. She's the breadwinner. He does nothing other than take care of the pool and the dogs. It's about circumstantial evidence, pure supposition, all steered by Teresa Sprague, who prejudged this case based upon a phone call received from her from an officer at the scene about these crocodile tears. This is just a hunch, ladies and gentlemen. A hunch. If you hear horses, if you hear hooves, think horses, not zebras, sort of thing. Because that's the point. You don't get to fit a square peg in a round hole because it's convenient. And that's what happened here. With the rush to judgment, with the confirmation of bias, those two detectives went into a room with David Tronis and worked him over. He sat there for 16 hours, bared his soul to them, literally and figuratively, told them what he knew, told them what he saw. The government's the one spinning here. The government's the one taking the insignificant and stacking them into a pyramid. And I'm confident that after carefully deliberating, that you'll come back and return the only just verdict in this case, and that's a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. So it says we all, dated at Orange County, Florida, on the 18th day of October.
I can't believe it.
44 months of being subbed to the stink man.
In the midst of this
Truly
tragedy,
a real laundry
Shanti's impact
basket
as a mother
moment.
was shown through her son Jackson. His victim impact statement was both heartrending and dignified.
My family and I have been waiting for about 5 years for justice. I miss her so much. I would have never thought the day before was the last time I would see my mother alive. I miss the times where we would go to Universal, or just the simple times, like walking the dogs or going to the park. She was the best mom I could ever ask for. That's it.
Defense, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Jackson.
I'm assuming that's the mother.
Mr. Tronis, anything you wish to say prior to sentencing? I think you just said no, is that right?
Yeah, shut the
in
fuck
this
up.
case, the court will adjudicate you guilty, will sentence you to life
Hope
imprisonment.
it was worth
Luck to you,
pleading
sir.
insanity for 5 years.
And the court will be
Fucking
in recess.
idiot.
This is his latest mugshot. He is currently being housed at the Graceville Correctional Facility in maximum security, where he is expected to remain.
Wow. Fucking L. Stupid. Just a fucking idiot. Once again. What more can I say? I mean, we've already... It's a lot of the same points being made. Once again, I mean, the detective... Or I think it was the prosecutor questioning the detective about the physical evidence and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't disappear. Much like when you plead insanity, your criminal proceedings don't disappear. They basically get put on hiatus until you are able to competently understand the situation, which you are constantly evaluated about whether you can or not. So, stupid idiot. What else is there to say?